ICSK Kuwait. Today we will discuss some important topics for the upcoming Science Class 10 CBSE exam. The paper is for 80 marks. The question paper is divided into 5 sections. Section A, we have 16 multiple choice questions and 4 assertion reason questions. Section B, we have 6 2-marker questions. Section C, again 7 short answer questions of 3 marks each. Section D, we have 3 long answer questions of 5 marks each. Section E, it has 3 source-based or case-based questions for 4 marks each. In science, we have a total of 13 chapters, out of which the first 4 chapters is for chemistry, which comes for 25 marks. Chapter 1, chemical reactions and equations. We'll be able to identify a chemical reaction by a change in state, change in color, evolution of gas, or change in temperature. Remember to balance the chemical equation when you are writing it, and it is in accordance to the law of conservation of mass. 4 major types of chemical reactions we have in this chapter. First is combination reaction, where 2 or more compounds, they combine together to form one new substance. Next, we have decomposition reaction, where one substance breaks down to form 2 or more substances. This can be accomplished by heat, as in case of ferrous sulfate and lead nitrate. Decomposition can also take place by electricity, as in electrolysis of water. Hydrogen is evolved at the cathode and oxygen is produced at the anode. Decomposition by light, also known as photolytic reaction. An important example is decomposition of silver chloride in presence of light to produce grey colored silver metal. The next reaction, we have the displacement reaction, where a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal from its salt solution. An important example is iron reacting with copper sulfate. Double displacement reaction, where there is exchange of ion. It is also known as precipitation reaction, when a precipitate is formed, as in case of sodium sulfate reacting with barium chloride to form a white precipitate of barium sulfate. Redox reaction, a reaction in which both oxidation as well as reduction is taking place. We call it as a redox reaction. Corrosion and rancidity are examples of oxidation reaction. Moving on to the next chapter of acid, bases and salts. Acids are colorless solutions which has a sour taste and they are soluble in water. Bases have a bitter taste, slippery to touch, and they may be soluble in water. If soluble, we call them as alkali. Chemical properties of acids and bases. Acids react with metal to form salt and hydrogen. Hydrogen can be tested using a lighted splint. It produces a pop sound. Even bases react with the metal to produce hydrogen gas, but we need to heat the solution. Acids react with metal carbonates and hydrogen carbonate to produce carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide can be tested by passing it through lime water. Lime water turns milky. Acids react with base to form salt and water, and we call it as neutralization reaction. The process of adding water to acid and base, we call it as dilution process. On dilution, acids produce hydrogen ions, and bases, it produces hydroxide ion. Care has to be taken on diluting the acid. Acid should be added to water with constant stirring, not vice versa. The solutions which have pH less than 7, we define it as acid, and solutions which have pH greater than 7, we call it as a base. Some important chemicals obtained from common salt. The first one we have is sodium hydroxide. It is obtained by chloralkali process. Electrolysis of sodium chloride is done to obtain sodium hydroxide, hydrogen, and chlorine. Other important salts are bleaching powder, baking soda, washing soda, and plaster of Paris. Plaster of Paris, when heated with water, it is converted to gypsum. We move on to the next chapter, metals and non-metals. You should know the difference between the physical properties of metals and non-metals with the exception cases which are there. Chemical properties of metal. Metals react with oxygen to form metal oxides. They are generally basic in nature, but we have some metals which are amphoteric in nature. Example, aluminium oxide and zinc oxide. Non-metals, on the other hand, form acidic oxide. Metals, they react with water to form metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas. Sodium, potassium, they react violently with water. Magnesium reacts with hot water. Aluminium, iron and zinc will be reacting only with steam. Metals, they react with acid to form salt and hydrogen, with the exception of copper, which does not react with dilute acid. Metals do not react with nitric acid, with the exception of manganese and magnesium, which does produce hydrogen gas. Metals can be arranged in a series according to its reaction. We call it as a reactivity series. A more reactive metal can displace a less reactive metal from its salt solution. Metals react with nonmetals to form ionic compounds. Ionic compounds are formed by the transfer of electron from the metal to the nonmetal. Ionic compounds are generally solid. They have high melting and boiling point, soluble in water, and good conductors of electricity in aqueous or in molten form, as they have free mobile ions. We move on to extraction of metals. The metals are extracted from the ore. The metals, we can classify it as high reactive metal extracted by electrolysis. Metals of moderate reactive metal generally occurs as sulfide and carbonate ores. We have to do the process of calcination or roasting to convert it into oxide form, and then reduction to obtain the metal. Metals of less reactive are generally found in native form. Once we get the metal, it has to be refined. Electrolytic refining is one of the processes in which the impure metal is taken as the anode. Pure metal is deposited at the cathode. Corrosion. Reaction of metal with atmospheric gases, we call it as corrosion. Silver particles become black in color due to the formation of silver sulfide. Copper becomes blue-green in color when it reacts with a moist carbon dioxide. Iron gets a red-brown coating of iron oxide. We also call it as rust. Two conditions for rusting is presence of oxygen and water. Moving on to the last chapter, carbon and its compounds. Non-metals, they form covalent bond by the sharing of electrons. The versatile nature of carbon. Carbon can form millions of compounds due to its versatile nature, due to the property of catenation and tetravalency. Organic compounds which have only hydrogen and carbon, we call it as hydrocarbons. There are two types of hydrocarbons: saturated hydrocarbons known as alkanes. Unsaturated hydrocarbons, we have alkenes with carbon-carbon double bond and alkynes with carbon-carbon triple bond. Isomers. Compounds having the same molecular formula but different structures, we call it as isomers. Butane has two isomers, pentane has three isomers. When one of the hydrogen in hydrocarbon is replaced by an atom or a group of atoms, which is known as functional group, we get different compounds like alcohols, aldehydes, ketones, and carboxylic acid. Homologous series, it is a series in which all members, they have the same functional group and same general formula. Each member differs from the next by CH2 unit. Some important chemical properties of organic compound: combustion, where the substance is heated with oxygen. Second is oxidation reaction of alcohol. On oxidation, it produces carboxylic acid. Addition reaction of alkyne with hydrogen, it produces alkane, also known as hydrogenation reaction. Substitution reaction, where one hydrogen of an alkane is replaced by a halogen to form a haloalkane. Some important chemical reactions of ethanol. Ethanol reacts with sodium metal to form sodium ethoxide and hydrogen gas. Reaction with concentrated sulfuric acid. Ethanol undergoes dehydration to form alkene. Moving on with the last topic, soaps and detergents. Do learn the cleansing action of soaps and detergents, the formation of micelles which detaches the dirt from the cloth. Also, know the difference between soaps and detergents. Detergents have better cleansing action, but it is non-biodegradable. With this, we have covered all the topics of chemistry. Be well prepared. Best of luck.
Greetings from ICSK to all the class 10 students who are ready to face a science examination. Here are a few tips and highlights for the subject physics. We start with the chapter Human Eye and the Colorful World. As we all know, the most important topic of the lesson is the defects of vision, wherein we are learning, as seen in the figure, two defects, myopia and hypermetropia. We are concentrating on the ray diagrams, the cause and correction of the defect, the corrected eye and the defected eye. Please note that whatever corrections the cause is there for myopia, exactly the opposite we have for hypermetropia. Here is a figure for the refraction of light through a prism. Please note all the ray diagrams that you're drawing, the direction of light ray is very, very important. As seen in the figure here, correctly mark the positions of angle of incidence, angle of prism, angle of refraction, angle of deviation, and the angle of emergence. Dispersion of light through a prism, the process of dispersion, what is dispersion, how the different colors of light split into the visual colors, with the violet color deviating the most, as you can see in the figure, and the red light deviating the least. Next chapter, light, reflection and refraction. Here we emphasize on the two phenomena of light, reflection and refraction. Reflection, concentrating on spherical mirrors, concave and convex. Concave mirrors, as seen in the figure here, there are 6 ray diagrams. It's very, very important that we mark the position of the object, position of image, the nature and the size. For a concave mirror, 6 figures, and for a convex mirror, 2 figures. Same is repeated for the ray diagrams for convex lenses when we pass on to the topic refraction. 6 ray diagrams for convex lenses and 2 ray diagrams for concave lenses. Children, it is easy to remember that the image formation for concave mirror and convex lens are similar, and the image formations for convex mirror and concave lens are similar. We pass on to the sign convention. Here is an area where we always make careless mistakes. Sign conventions to be correctly visualized, then only we'll be able to apply in doing numericals. As seen in the figure, sign conventions are generally marked for mirrors as well as lenses. These are the few sign conventions which I'm going to highlight very fast. The first sign convention, objects should always be kept on the left side of the mirror or lens, as the case may be. The incident light direction will be taken as positive. Light incident in the opposite direction will be taken as negative. Sign conventions. Children, here is an area where we all make careless mistakes. So this is the figure for the general sign convention of mirrors as well as lenses, as the case may be. I'm just saying a few points about the sign conventions. Be it a lens or a mirror, the object is always kept, as you know, on the left side. All the distances measured in the direction of light shown in the figure is taken as positive. All the distances measured opposite to the direction of light is taken as negative. Distance measured above the principal axis is marked as positive, and below the principal axis is marked as negative. If it is a concave mirror, the reference point or the origin is the pole. If it is a lens, the reference point or the origin is taken as the optic center. Alright, so when we are doing numericals related with mirrors as well as lenses, for sure there will be questions from mirror formula and lens formula. So apply the sign conventions very carefully, visualizing the sign conventions and the image formation in our mind. This is a mirror formula which is written on the screen. Mirror formula is 1 by V plus 1 by U equals 1 by F. According to the image formation, we are going to correctly apply the sign conventions. Object distance, U always taken as negative. V and F, V for The image distance, F for focal length, will be taken as positive and negative according to the image formation. Magnification for a mirror is given by minus V by U. Mind you, when you are doing the numericals, always the unit for the final answer should be written. Same is the case of lenses, be it concave or convex lenses. Lens formula is 1 by V minus 1 by U equals 1 by F, but applying the correct sign convention. Magnification is given by V by U. Next topic is power of a lens. Power of the lens is given by the reciprocal of focal length, but please don't forget that focal length has to be converted into meters. The SI unit of power is diopter, but remember, for a convex lens, focal length being positive, power is also positive. For a concave lens, focal length being negative, power is also negative. Alright, we pass on to the chapter electricity. As we all know, the most important topic of the lesson is Ohm's law. Law is something which is universally accepted. So the statement of the law has to be stated as such. Here is the circuit diagram for Ohm's law shown in the screen. The conductor is always connected to the ammeter in series, the voltmeter in parallel for measuring the voltage. A battery will supply the potential difference. It's very important that you mark the direction of current. And if a rheostat is connected to the circuit, it will vary the voltage source or voltage supply so that the current and corresponding voltage can be varied. The graph of Ohm's law, we also call it as the VI characteristics or voltage current graph. What are the two features of the graph? The graph has to be a straight line. It has to pass through the origin. How do we calculate the resistance of the graph? Resistance will be the slope of the graph. Hope you all know how to calculate the resistance. What if an IV graph is given in a question? Then the resistance will be 1 by slope. Alright? If in a graph, if it's a graph-based question which is asked, in which there are two graphs for two different conductors, and if you are asked to state which is having higher resistance, how do we do it? Greater resistance, greater should be the slope. Or in other words, greater the slope, greater the resistance of the graph. Yes? We pass on to the combination of resistors. As you all have seen in sample papers and the previous board papers, here 1 minute children, I hope that you all have had ample practice on sample paper questions. Next topic, resistors connected in series or parallel. Combination of resistors. There are different ways in which we can combine resistors. Here, I hope that you all have had enough practice for sample papers and board papers wherein you would have seen many circuit diagrams. You are asked to analyze the circuit. You are asked to find out the resistance of each branch of the circuit, the current flow and the voltage flow. Just some key points about resistors in series and parallel. Resistors in series. Please see the figure shown here. What are the key points? When resistors are connected in series, any number of resistors connected in series, total resistance or the net resistance in series will be the sum of individual resistors. The current flow will always be a constant across each resistors, but the potential difference will be different. Resistors in parallel. What are the key points? When resistors, any number of resistors are connected in parallel, the potential difference or the voltage across each resistor will be the same. Current flow will be different. Current is different across each resistors. The formula for calculating resistance in parallel as shown is 1 by R equals 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2 plus 1 by R3. It goes like that for any number of resistors. Heating effect of electric current. There are many applications of heating effect of electric current, as you know. These are the different formulas for finding out the heat produced. This is also called as a Joule's law of heating, as you know. First formula is I squared RT. Second is V squared by R into T. Third one is VIT. The symbols have their usual meaning. I for current, R for resistance, V for voltage and T for time. Where do we use these? Depending on the data given in the numerical, we'll be correctly applying the formula for calculating the heat produced or the work done when current is flowing through an electrical network. Power, electrical power. Power, as you know, is a rate of doing work. So all of the formulas that we have written for heat produced, the same formulas are applicable here, but we divide the equation with time. And that gives the three formulas of power which are shown in the screen here. And the unit of power is watts. Last chapter, magnetic effects of electric current. Children, this is a very scoring chapter. There are no formulas in the chapter. There are no big calculations in the chapter. There are no numericals also. But we have lots of figures. All the figures which are given in the reader connected with magnetic field and magnetic field line pattern is important. Here is the magnetic field associated with a bar magnet. If you look into the figure, what are the common properties of magnetic field lines? Magnetic field lines, what does magnetic field indicate? It indicates the direction and strength of the magnetic field in a given region. We pass on to the last chapter, magnetic effects of electric current. Children, as you know, there are no equations in the chapter, there are no numericals, so it's very scoring. Magnetic field lines. So these are the magnetic field line patterns which we are going to display one by one here. The first one is a magnetic field for a bar magnet. What are the properties of magnetic field lines? It always starts from the North Pole and ends at the South Pole. Outside the magnet, inside it will be from south to north. So as you can see, magnetic field lines will always form closed loops. And then you can see in the figure that no two field lines are intersecting each other. The strength of the magnetic field is given by the closeness of the field lines. Yes, and the direction of magnetic field is given by the tangent drawn to any point of the field line. And these properties of magnetic field lines are applicable for any conductor which is carrying current. Because any conductor, if it carries current, it will produce a magnetic field. Next pattern of magnetic field is the magnetic field produced by a straight conductor carrying current. As you see in the figure, this is the activity shown in the reader. A conductor is connected to a battery supply. The battery will supply the current. When current flows through the conductor, it produces a magnetic field. What is the pattern of magnetic field? It is concentric circles. Okay, and the direction of the magnetic field is given by right hand thumb rule. Suppose this is a conductor which I have in my hand, and if the current is flowing in the conductor in the upward direction, right hand thumb rule says that hold the conductor carrying current in the right hand. Thumb shows the direction of current. Fingers which are encircling the conductor will show the direction of magnetic field. This is right hand thumb rule which indicates the direction of magnetic field for a straight conductor carrying current. As it goes, the magnetic field produced by a circular coil is shown in the figure. The pattern you will have to draw and study. Very important, all the magnetic field line patterns, the magnetic field line direction should be indicated. Last pattern of magnetic field line. This is a magnetic field line produced by a solenoid. What is the most important point about this? When current flows through a solenoid, it behaves like a bar magnet, with one face of it acting as a south pole, the other face acting as a north pole. And inside the magnet, from south to north, the magnetic field is uniform or constant, indicated by parallel magnetic field lines. Fleming's left-hand rule. Force experienced by a conductor placed in a magnetic field. So, if a conductor carrying current is placed in a magnetic field, this conductor is going to experience a force and the conductor will deflect. The direction in which the conductor deflects, upward, downward, towards north, towards south, whatever the case may be, is indicated by Fleming's left-hand rule. Here is Fleming's left-hand rule. I use my left hand, of course. We stretch the forefinger, central finger and thumb of our left hand mutually perpendicular to each other. I can keep it in any ways. I can keep it perpendicular like this. I can keep it perpendicular like this. How am I supposed to keep it? My forefinger Forefinger starts with the letter F. Indicates the direction of magnetic field. Field with F. Easier to remember. Forefinger indicates the direction of magnetic field. Central finger starts with C, indicates the direction of current. Current starts with C. C for current. Central finger for current. Then, thumb indicates the direction of force experienced by the conductor. So this is Fleming's left-hand rule used to indicate the direction of force experienced by a conductor. Thank you, dear children. I hope that we have highlighted the important points of the different chapters. Hope you do well and all the best. Thank you.
Hello students, here are the important topics from biology chapters. The first chapter is life processes and the topic is nutrition. From nutrition, remember to learn the definition for enzymes. Enzymes are biocatalysts which accelerate metabolic reactions. Second thing which you have to learn is the comparison between autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. In autotrophic nutrition, inorganic molecules combine to form organic molecules, and in heterotrophic nutrition, bigger organic molecules like proteins, carbohydrates and fats will break down to produce simpler organic molecules. Now under autotrophic nutrition, remember to learn the balanced equation for photosynthesis and the steps in which photosynthesis take place. But desert plant produce some intermediate compounds during night time which will be acted upon by sunlight to produce glucose during daytime. Draw and learn the cross-section of a leaf, the structure of open and closed stomata. During exam, use only pencil for drawing and use a scale for labeling the diagrams. Now let's move to heterotrophic nutrition where we learned about human digestive system. Remember to learn all the labelings of the textbook diagram and now pause the video and focus on the table which is on the screen. All the details under human digestion is given here. Now let's go to respiration. Respiration is the process by which glucose produces energy. The first stage is where 6 carbon molecule containing glucose breaks down to produce 2 molecules of pyruvate which is a 3 carbon molecule. Pyruvate has 3 fates. Number 1, in the presence of oxygen inside mitochondria, pyruvate produces energy which we call as aerobic respiration. Number 2, in organisms like yeast, in the complete absence of oxygen, pyruvate produces ethanol and energy, and in human voluntary muscles, in the lack of oxygen, pyruvate produces lactic acid and energy which we call as anaerobic respiration. Then we learn how different organisms get respiratory gases. Plants get respiratory gases through stomata. Aquatic organisms get oxygen which is dissolved in water, and terrestrial organisms depend on the atmosphere for getting oxygen. Then we learn human respiratory system. Remember to learn all the labelings in the diagram human respiratory system. The characteristic features of alveoli, like alveoli has numerous blood vessels which support exchange of gases, the occurrence of residual volume which gives enough time for diffusion of gases. Then the transport of gases. Oxygen is transported by hemoglobin and carbon dioxide as dissolved form in plasma water. Let's move to transpiration where first we learn human circulatory system. 2 important diagrams are there under this topic. One is the cross-section of human heart. Learn to draw and label it. The second one is double circulation. Both the diagrams have been often asked in CBSE exams for labeling, drawing, for diagram-based questions. Learn all the functions of all the labelings. It's a very important topic. Next is transpiration in plants. In plants, water and minerals are transported through tracheids and vessels of xylem. And 2 driving forces are, one is transpiration pull, second one is root pressure. Then food is transported as sucrose through sieve tubes and the process is called translocation. Next life process which we learned is excretion. Under that topic, remember to learn the different parts of human excretory system. Draw and learn the structure of a nephron, its labelings, the different functions happening in different regions of a nephron and different materials which are reabsorbed like amino acid, glucose, salts and water. Then we learn different materials which are excreted by plants. Next chapter which we learned is control and coordination. The first thing to remember is gustatory receptor which is meant for tasting, that's our tongue. Second one is olfactory receptor which helps to smell, that's our nose. Draw and learn the structure of a neuron. And remember what is the function of a dendrite. It's to receive electrical impulse and transfer it to cell body, and the axon, which transfers the electrical impulse from cell body to the adjacent neuron. Learn to identify the diagram neuromuscular junction, where an electrical impulse is transferred from a neuron to a muscle. Human nervous system consists of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Brain and spinal cord makes the central nervous system, and all the nerves which connect different parts of the body to the central nervous system makes the peripheral nervous system. Then we learned about reflex action and reflex arc. Remember to learn all the components of the reflex arc. Then we learn the structure and functions of different parts of human brain. Pause the video and see the table to learn all the different parts and its functions. Under plan, control and coordination, we learned about two types of movement in plants, that is tropic movement and nastic movement. Different tropic movements we learned, all the examples and experiments under all these tropic movements. Then we learned about different phytohormones, auxin, gibberellins, cytokinin. These are the plant growth promoters, and abscisic acid is a plant growth inhibitor. See the table and learn all the functions of these hormones. Human chemical coordination, remember to go through figure 6.7 to learn the location of different endocrine glands in human body. We learned the functions of different hormones like growth hormone, insulin, testosterone, estrogen, adrenaline, and releasing hormones. We learned three deficiency conditions like goiter, which is because of the deficiency of thyroxine, insulin deficiency causes diabetes, and growth hormone deficiency during childhood causes dwarfism. Towards the end of the chapter, we learn about feedback mechanism of insulin, which is also a very important topic. Let's move to the next chapter, how do organisms reproduce, where we learn two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual reproduction. Under asexual reproduction, first type which we learned is binary fission. Learn the diagram of binary fission in amoeba, then the binary fission in leishmania, which happens in a definite orientation. Diagram is also important. Then we learn multiple fission in the malarial parasite Plasmodium, budding in unicellular organism yeast and budding in multicellular organism, that's Hydra, regeneration in planaria. We learned about vegetative propagation and its advantages. It is listed on the screen. Please go through that. The last asexual reproduction which we learned is spore formation, which takes place during unfavorable condition in fungus like Rhizopus. Learn all these diagrams along with the labelings. Under sexual reproduction, first we learned sexual reproduction in plants. Remember to draw and learn the structure of a bisexual flower. Again, important topic which is being asked many a times during the previous years. Remember to learn the process of pollination, fertilization, types of flowers like unisexual flower, bisexual flowers, its examples, and post-fertilization changes. Then we learned human reproductive system, where first we learned the development of secondary sexual characters in male and female and the structure of male and female reproductive system. Learn to draw both the diagrams along with the labelings. The functions of different parts of human male and female reproductive systems are important. Under female reproductive system, remember to learn menstrual cycle and the changes which occur after pregnancy. Under reproductive health, we learn different types of sexually transmitted diseases. Questions were asked, for example, name two sexually transmitted diseases which are caused by virus. Answer is HIV/AIDS and genital warts, or bacteria. Example, gonorrhea and syphilis. Under the same heading, we learned about different contraceptive methods, barrier method which includes condoms, chemical method which includes pills, and surgical method which includes vasectomy and tubectomy. And remember to learn why we have to adopt contraceptive methods and the drawbacks of female feticide. Next chapter is heredity. It starts with a diagram explaining variation. Two reasons are there for variation. Number one is inaccuracies in DNA copying. Number two, sexual reproduction. Remember to learn acquired traits and inherited traits. Then we learn Mendelian experiment. We learn monohybrid cross, which involves the crossing of a single pair of contrasting character, and dihybrid cross, which involves the crossing of two pairs of contrasting characters. Here are certain things which you must do. Number one, write and learn the representation of monohybrid and dihybrid cross. Second thing, remember to learn the phenotypic ratio, monohybrid cross ratio, which is 3:1, and dihybrid cross ratio, which is 9:3:3:1. Monohybrid genotypic ratio, which is 1:2:1. When you write the genotype of an heterozygous organism, remember to write the capital letter first. Important thing, whenever you write a genotype, remember to write the phenotype along with it. The last topic which we learned in this chapter is sex determination in different organisms. First we learned sex determination in human beings, which is genetically determined by two sex chromosomes, X chromosome and Y chromosome. The probability of having a male child or a female child is 50%. In some organisms like snail, sex is not genetically determined. For example, a snail can change its sex due to environmental condition. Second one, some reptiles, the sex is determined by the temperature in which egg is incubated. The last chapter we learned is our environment. We started the chapter with ecosystem, learned the examples for natural and artificial ecosystem. Then we learned about food chain, learned to construct food chain under different conditions. For example, a food chain in a forest, a food chain in aquatic condition, a food chain with 3 trophic levels, food chain with 4 trophic levels, etc. The diagram on the screen shows different trophic levels and the organisms included in it. Remember to learn examples for each trophic level. We learned about certain characteristic features of the energy flow in a food chain. Number 1, the energy flow is always unidirectional. Number 2, only 10% of the energy received by a particular trophic level will be transferred to the next trophic level. Here, calculation type questions also can be asked. And one important thing which you have to remember here is biomagnification, which explains the accumulation of some chemicals in organisms which occupy the higher trophic levels. The last topic which we learned under this chapter is ozone. How ozone is formed? Learn this equation on the screen. What are the different components which leads to ozone depletion like CFCs? Then learn about what are the after effects of ozone depletion. I would like to add some important tips about the exam. Number 1 is time management. You have 180 minutes for answering 80 marks. According to your writing skill, have a plan about each and every minute you are going to spend in the exam room. Next important thing is answer all the questions in the question paper and remember to verify it. If you want to know more about how to correctly put the question number and more details about CBSE examination 2025, watch our previous video. Here is the link. Wish you all the best from the Indian Community School, Kuwait. Thank you.